My name is Detective Jonathan Pierce. I've learned that buildings remember things. Not in the way people do, but in patterns, worn steps, doors that never quite close right, rooms that feel heavier than they should. Most of the time, it's just decay. Sometimes, it's something else. The apartment on Harrow Street was something else. The call came from a patrol officer just after sunset. Noise complaints. Screaming. A neighbor swore someone had been trying to break down their own door from the inside. When officers arrived, the noise stopped. The apartment door was locked. No one answered. No record of the tenant leaving the building in weeks. I arrived to find the hallway dim and narrow, its lights flickering like they were tired of existing. Apartment 3B was at the end of the hall. The door looked normal, old wood, peeling paint, a dent near the handle like it had been struck repeatedly. I knocked. Nothing. The lock was old. It took less than a minute to force it. Inside, the apartment smelled stale, like air that hadn't moved in a long time. Furniture was sparse: a couch, a table, a single chair. No television. No decorations. The windows were covered with thick curtains that blocked out every trace of light. I stepped inside. The door closed behind me. The sound was soft, final. I tried the handle immediately. Locked. I told myself it was just habit, checking exits first. I unlocked it. The handle turned. The door didn't open. I pulled harder. Nothing. The door frame didn't budge. No give. No crack. I stepped back, heart beating a little faster now, and examined it. Solid. No obstruction. No visible damage. It was as if the door simply refused. I turned toward the living room, forcing calm. Old buildings did strange things. Warped frames. Pressure changes. I'd seen it before. Then I noticed the footprints. They were everywhere. Bare feet, overlapping, circling the room in erratic loops. Some were dark with grime. Others looked raw, as if the skin had been worn thin. All of them led nowhere. The bedroom door was open. I walked toward it and froze. The bedroom was identical to the living room. Same couch. Same table. Same chair. Same footprints. My radio crackled. I grabbed it instantly. Pierce to dispatch. Static. Then a voice. Not dispatch. Don't stop moving. I pulled the radio away from my ear, staring at it like it had just bitten me. The voice had been mine. I tried the bathroom next. The door opened easily. Inside was another hallway. Longer than the apartment should allow. Lined with doors on both sides. Each door labeled in faded black ink. Exit. I approached the first one and opened it. Living room. Same couch. Same table. Same chair. I closed it slowly, my breath shallow now. The second exit door led to the bedroom. The third led to a kitchen I hadn't seen before, until I stepped inside and realized it was the same kitchen, again. Same unwashed plate in the sink. Same knife on the counter. Every path folded back into itself. I checked my watch. The second hand was moving. The minute hand wasn't. That's when I noticed the writing on the wall, scratched deep into the paint near the hallway ceiling, running the length of it like a warning left by someone who had learned too late. You can walk forever. You can't leave. My pulse hammered in my ears. This wasn't a trap. It was a loop. And somewhere inside this apartment, something, or someone, had learned every way a person could try to escape. Including mine. I don't know how long I walked. The apartment didn't change, but I did. My breathing grew shallow. My legs ached. The air felt thicker with every loop, like the rooms were slowly filling with something invisible. Every door led somewhere familiar. Every hallway bent just enough to return me to the same furniture, the same footprints, the same silence. I stopped walking when I heard breathing that wasn't mine. It came from the far end of the hallway, slow, deliberate, exhausted. I followed it past 3 exit doors and into the bedroom. The room was darker now, the corners pressed inward, shadows clinging to the walls like stains. A man sat in the chair. He looked thin. Not malnourished, worn. His clothes hung loose on his frame, as if time itself had been pulling at him. His hair was gray, but his face said he was too young for it. He looked up at me and didn't seem surprised. "You shouldn't run," he said. "It learns faster when you run." I raised my gun, heart pounding. "Who are you?" He exhaled slowly. "The first tenant. Or the last. Hard to tell anymore." "You're trapped," I said. He nodded. "So are you." I kept my distance. "How long?" He smiled faintly. "Long enough for the apartment to stop pretending." I glanced around. The walls felt closer now, subtly bending inward. "What is this place?" "It's not a place," he replied. "It's a condition." He gestured around us. "It doesn't stop you from leaving. It just removes the concept of outside." I asked the question I didn't want the answer to. "Have you tried breaking through?" He laughed softly, without humor. "Every surface here is solid until it isn't, and when it isn't, it shows you something worse." He stood slowly, joints creaking. "It gives you options. That's the trick. It lets you choose until you understand that none of them matter." I noticed his hands. The skin was scarred. Burned. Broken and healed wrong. "What happens when you stop moving?" I asked. His smile faded. "It shows you why you're here." The lights flickered. The apartment exhaled. I felt it then, a shift in pressure, like the entire space had adjusted its attention toward us. The exit doors at the end of the hallway began to hum softly, vibrating in place. "You shouldn't have brought a weapon," the man said quietly. "Why?" "Because it remembers violence." The hallway stretched. Not visually, physically. My next step didn't land where it should have. The floor dipped subtly, like stepping onto a soft surface. The footprints around us began to change direction, converging toward the center of the room. The man backed away from me. "It's reacting to you." "To me?" I demanded. "You're new," he said. "It hasn't decided what you're for yet." The humming grew louder. The exit doors began opening and closing on their own, each one revealing the same room, but slightly altered, furniture misplaced, walls cracked, blood on the floor that wasn't there before. I felt a sharp pressure behind my eyes. Memories flickered, cases I'd failed, people I'd left behind, choices I'd buried under paperwork and time. The apartment wasn't showing me fear. It was showing me regret. I staggered, grabbing the wall. The surface felt warm. Alive. "That's how it keeps you," the man said softly. "It doesn't punish. It repeats." I looked at him. "Why are you still sane?" He met my eyes. "I'm not." The exit door closest to us opened wider than the others. Inside was a version of the apartment I didn't recognize. The couch was gone. The table was gone. In their place was a single doorway, pitch black beyond it. The man shook his head violently. "Don't go in there." "What is it?" I asked. "The part where you stop being lost," he said, "and start being used." The apartment grew quiet. Too quiet. And I knew, deep in my chest, that the space had made its first decision. About me. I didn't move toward the dark doorway. I couldn't. Every instinct screamed that crossing it would erase something essential inside me. But staying meant wandering these loops forever, losing pieces of myself to a pattern I didn't yet understand. The old tenant, the one who had lived here too long, stepped forward. His face was drawn pale, but his eyes were sharper than they had been before. "It's not a trap," he said. "Not exactly. It's a test. And you don't fail unless you stop looking for a way through." I frowned. "A test for what?" "Persistence. Choice. Understanding. It wants to see how far you'll go before you give in to panic." He gestured toward the endless corridors. "It doesn't care about death. It doesn't care about fear. It wants comprehension. And comprehension is a cruel thing." I took a deep breath. The air was thick, almost tangible, and I felt my pulse hammer in rhythm with some unseen mechanism. I knew he was right. Panic was my enemy. I had to move, carefully, deliberately. I chose a door at random, exit number 7. It opened smoothly. I expected to see the same room I'd been walking through for hours. Instead, a staircase spiraled downward, carved from the same old wood that lined the rest of the apartment. The steps creaked under my weight, each sound echoing unnaturally, like a memory amplifying itself. "Be careful," the man said. "Every choice echoes. Every step changes the pattern. Even wrong ones." I nodded, trying to ignore the knot in my stomach. The staircase led to a hallway I hadn't seen before, shorter than the apartment's previous loops. The doors along it looked normal, familiar yet different, like echoes in a canyon. I opened one. A bedroom. Identical to the bedrooms I had already walked through, but the lighting was softer. The window was open, showing a night sky I didn't recognize. I stepped inside. The door behind me closed on its own, and the hallway behind it vanished. The apartment shifted. I felt it, subtly, beneath my feet. The building wasn't just walls and furniture, it was alive, rearranging itself with every choice I made. The room had a desk. On it a notebook. Its pages blank. I opened it. Nothing. Then, as I traced a finger along the paper, words appeared. "You cannot leave as you entered." My breath caught. The words were carved into the paper, as if the building itself had written them in response to my presence. The old tenant's voice came from behind me. "The apartment doesn't just trap you. It adapts. It learns. It changes what it shows. If it gives you hope, it's testing whether you'll chase it." I spun around. He was nowhere to be seen. The air felt heavier, and I realized that he had never been physically present, at least not entirely. A ghost? A warning? Or another version of someone trapped long enough to become part of the apartment? I returned to the staircase. It now led not downward but upward, spiraling in impossible directions. Every step brought new hallways, new doors, new rooms. Some doors opened to identical apartments. Others to spaces I had never seen, rooms submerged in darkness, kitchens with sinks full of water but no faucets, hallways with doors leading into walls. It was exhausting. Mind-numbing. But I noticed something, slight differences in the air, the lighting, the echoes of footsteps. Patterns. Tiny markers left behind by previous tenants. Hints. I realized the apartment wasn't just a prison. It was a maze designed to test observation, patience, and understanding. The doors were distractions. The loops were lessons. The rooms reflected my fear and my mistakes, reshaping reality to push me toward comprehension. Hours, or was it days, passed. My sense of time dissolved. Hunger, thirst, fatigue, they all faded into the background, replaced by one thought: find the exit. Understand the rules. And then I saw it, a door unlike the others. No label, no handle, no frame. Just a black rectangle at the end of a hallway I hadn't noticed before. It pulsed slightly, as if breathing. I stepped toward it. My hand trembled. The apartment shifted around me, walls bending slightly, floors tilting. The air thickened. A whisper echoed softly in my mind. This is where you decide. I stopped. I realized that the apartment wasn't just about trapping people physically, it was about choice. The wrong decision wouldn't kill me immediately. It would fold me into its endless loops, erase pieces of me, until I was just another echo. I looked back down the hallway. No sign of the old tenant. No guidance. No reassurance. And I took a breath. I was about to step through the door. The black doorway swallowed me. Not visually, my eyes saw it as a void, but physically. As soon as I stepped through, the apartment behind me disappeared completely. The walls, the doors, the loops, they were gone. I stood in a vast, empty space, smooth and featureless, lit by a dim, gray glow that had no source. No ceiling, no floor, no corners, just endless space, stretching in every direction. And then I realized I could hear it. The apartment. Not like before, with doors slamming or walls creaking, but like a thought. Slow, deliberate, observing. Judging. It whispered through the air, or perhaps my own mind, you are new. You are expected. You must learn. I walked forward cautiously. The ground beneath my feet felt solid, but sometimes it tilted ever so slightly, as if the space itself was testing my balance. Every step I took echoed, not outward, but inward inside my skull. Then shapes began to emerge. Not walls, not doors, but images. Rooms. Hallways. Furniture. Each one familiar, yet slightly wrong. Furniture floating inches above the floor, ceilings bending impossibly, hallways curving against natural geometry. Every room I had walked through before now existed simultaneously, overlapping in layers, like a city folded into itself. A voice whispered, familiar, calm, impossible to locate. You see now. The apartment is not your prison. It is a mechanism. I spun around. No one. The voice echoed inside me. I am the first tenant, it continued. Or perhaps a fragment. I learned the rules. Now you must. What rules? I asked, my throat dry. I've walked every hallway. I've tried every door. I've survived. Survival is not understanding, the voice said. You have walked the loops. You have observed. But comprehension is alignment. The apartment is a filter. Every choice you make, it adapts. It requires balance between fear and will, observation and motion. One misstep, and you become part of the system. The space shifted again. A room appeared in front of me, a living room. Same couch, same table, same chair. But the walls flickered, revealing glimpses of other rooms I had walked through, layered behind it. I stepped inside. The floor warped beneath me. A door appeared where the wall should have been. I opened it, and was instantly back at the hallway with exit doors. Except something was different. The doors no longer hummed. They no longer vibrated. They were still. Observing me. Waiting. I understood. The apartment had learned from me. It was no longer just a trap, it was interactive, conscious. My presence had taught it. Every hesitation, every glance, every step contributed to its understanding. I took a deep breath. So, I can leave? The voice answered, cold and precise. Only if you comprehend the rules fully. And only if you are willing to accept the cost. I nodded, though I wasn't entirely sure what that meant. I had a choice. One final choice. The hallway stretched infinitely, but I noticed a subtle difference. One exit door stood slightly taller, slightly wider. It beckoned. I approached it carefully. The door opened. On the other side was not the city street I had expected. Not the hallway I had come from. It was a mirror. Floor to ceiling. Framed in warped black wood. And in the reflection, I wasn't alone. Multiple versions of myself stared back, some calm, some terrified, some shaking. Each mirrored step I took corresponded to theirs. Each heartbeat, each movement, matched theirs precisely. The voice spoke again. The exit is alignment. Choose the version of yourself that survives. Only one can remain. The rest will be absorbed. I realized the truth. The apartment had never wanted to trap me. It had wanted to select me. To refine me. To force me to confront every version of myself, fearful, indecisive, compliant, resisting, and merge into the one capable of moving forward. Every reflection I saw had been a path. Some led to loops, some to despair, some to oblivion. Only one would survive. I took a deep breath. The mirrors reflected my hesitation, my fear, my doubt. And I stepped forward. I stepped into the mirror. The surface was cool, solid, unyielding. My reflection stared back at me, not with my eyes, but with something older, sharper, wiser. Every mistake I had made in the loops, every hesitation, every panic-fueled step flashed behind its gaze. You understand now, the voice whispered. This is the final step. You may leave. Or remain. The apartment will remember either choice. I swallowed hard. My chest ached. The loops, the rooms, the hallways, the endless doors, all of it pressed in behind me like a tide. I realized then that the apartment wasn't evil. It wasn't trying to kill anyone. It was selecting, testing, refining. And I was the test. One version of me, fearful, hesitant, pulled back instinctively. Another, angry, defiant, wanted to smash the mirror and collapse the entire system. But I realized the truth. The apartment only responded to understanding, to comprehension, to acceptance of the rules it had laid before me. I exhaled slowly. The mirror pulsed under my touch, and I let go of resistance. My reflection mimicked me exactly. I stepped forward fully, closing the distance between us. The other versions of me, scared, angry, unsure, flickered, dissolved, and were absorbed into the glass. Their faces disappeared, leaving only one. Mine. Calm. Aware. Aligned. The apartment shifted violently around me. Hallways stretched and bent, rooms folded into themselves, doors appeared and vanished. But the mirror remained steady. Then I felt it, a pull, gentle but insistent, leading me through a hallway I hadn't seen before. Doors opened naturally this time, without resistance, without loops. I walked steadily, my steps guided by instinct rather than fear. At last, I reached a door unlike the others. Wooden, ordinary, with a handle that turned without hesitation. I opened it. The world outside was real. The city street I had known. The sky dark but vast. Air smelled like rain. Cars passed. People moved, unaware of what lay in that apartment just behind me. I stepped onto the sidewalk, the door closing softly behind me. When I looked back, the building seemed smaller somehow, unremarkable. The windows reflected the night sky, nothing more. And yet I knew it remembered. It always would. I walked away, heartbeat slowing. Every instinct still alert, every nerve still tense. The apartment had not released me freely. It had selected me. Refined me. changed me in ways I couldn't yet name. The old tenant had been right. The apartment didn't care about fear. It cared about comprehension, about alignment. And I was the version it allowed to survive. But I knew something else. Every choice in life, every hesitation, every fear could be a doorway. And somewhere, someone else might step through another door in that building, into a loop they couldn't understand, a test they couldn't pass. I glanced back once more. The windows were dark, silent, ordinary. But I knew the truth. The apartment never forgets. It waits. It observes. And it chooses. I walked away into the night, carrying with me the knowledge that survival sometimes requires more than strength or will. Sometimes it requires understanding. And the apartment would always be there, waiting, patient, watching, refining the next version of itself, and anyone who dared step inside. I didn't look back again.